Decided to do a quick unboxing first thing as soon as I got it in the mail. So here we go. Basically how it comes in the mail to you. The Fanatec on the outside. So the problem with that is everybody, if they leave it on the porch, everybody can see what it is. Um, really well packaged though. You got the box. You want to be careful when you open the box. Obviously, I open a lot of stuff. And I just got the knife out, but I'm being very careful with the depth. Uh, so get the box open. It is taped up well. Definitely got to cut it. Here we go. It actually is kind of vacuum sealed into that box. It's very nice having it that way. And because the cardboard is on the outside of the box, it's pristine. So it feels very nice. Just get a look around it. It's a really nice box, actually. It really makes it feel kind of special. The BMW colors and just the look of the box and everything. It's really nice. So we're going to open it up here. Got to be careful with the tabs, especially when you put the box back together. There's nothing written on the panels, which is kind of disappointing. Fanatec always puts really cool little slogans on their lids and stuff. Set everything sideways here so you can see into the box as I'm pulling everything out. We got the manual. Quick start guide and manual, I should say. Just empty. Throw that away. And silica packet. Don't eat that. Throw it away. And the another empty cardboard. So, just pop the foam inserts out. I actually use those for storage and stuff like that later. And I actually like this. A lot of people complain, but I actually like this little cloth cover that all the wheels come in. Actually, everything comes in. The pedals, the V3 pedals come in it. I actually like that part of it. So it's nice, makes it feel special, and plus it gives you some kind of protection if you put it in storage or if you're moving or anything like that. Not saying that the wheels aren't durable and you could just disregard, but there it is. The first time I've seen it. The BMW M2 GT wheel, or we get it, the BMW GT wheel. And my first thought, if you didn't notice, is as soon as I touched it, is the padding and the Alcantara leather it just feels really nice. Gonna give everything a test real quick. Arm blocking the camera there. So here we go, the back, and this is hard to see because I'm blocking the camera. There is a storage pin that comes in. It's plastic. We'll take another look at it here in a moment. There we go, there's the storage pin. We'll just throw that to the side. Won't be using that. And there you have the face of it in light. Buttons are very positive, very hefty, really snappy. And there it is. As far as first impressions go, this one's pretty good. The plastics used look like, you can't really see that well in video, but all this up here, it is an ABS plastic. Everything else, faceplate's metal. The rim itself, the points are metal. But the back is a very matte finish. It's very smooth, very matte. It's not reflective at all. The paddle shifters are they're better than the P1 wheel I have, in my opinion, but they're still not fantastic. So
but they're a lot better. They're a lot better, but they're not like super positive click. They're pretty smooth. There's no obvious click point. You can hear it click, but you can't feel it. So I'll just remove all doubt, pull all the way back. Click to the end. Buttons are every one of them, even the test one. Analog stick over here works excellent. 4-way D-pad over there with encoder. And it clicks also. The one concern I have, though, is there's a lot of raw material showing on the face of this. You can actually see the parts moving around in there. And that's a little concerning. Same thing with the back. You can actually, might not be able to see on camera, but you can actually get your finger in here. And there's like chips and stuff back in there. For the encoders, actually. So that's a concern, but the overall feel and realism of this wheel is hefty. And the fabric is fantastic. It feels like a real car wheel. So, first impressions are over.
Here we have the Fanatec. I guess what I'm going to do here is kind of a comparison, not really a first look. I just did the first look impressions, but I really want to do like is it worth the upgrade from what I had at top? Look into the wheel rim from the P1 Xbox wheel that you see here, which really it's closest to, it's really about the same quality, a little bit better than would be a standard G29 wheel rim. Now it's way better than a G27 or G25, by far way better. You got much more intuitive button layout here than you do with the G27, G25, but it's about the same, except for you do have this D-pad here instead of like a standard D-pad. And sorry, I got videos and stuff up, but it is pretty much gonna be about a little bit better than a G29 top wheel rim. I think it's a little bit softer rubber. You'll notice I do wear gloves when I race, and that is really just to help with grip and sweat and all that. I don't really sweat too much, but I do tend to grip a little firm, and gloves help me relax a bit. I don't know what that is, but it does work, and these are really well padded right where it needs to be, so it's nice. I do plan on getting some racing gloves to use instead of just mechanics wear, but they work. The key thing I wanted to point out, though, is that the problems I had with this wheel was although the buttons are much more intuitive than G27 or G25, it is not quite as intuitive as you need for a racing wheel. It's more of this is a racing controller, because that's what it really is. It's an Xbox controller fitted into a wheel. And so I'm going to actually power this up. I do not have the security bolt fastened or anything like that. Because I'm going to pull this wheel off here in a moment. So here, actually, you might see it there. I'm not sure if the video is picking it up, but I'll turn the wheel closer so maybe you can see it. I'm going to turn this lighting off here as well. So this wheel has this lighting at the top here that you can just see turned on and is going around the top. It does have a display, but it's not very bright and it's not really clear. It's average. It really is about like an alarm clock style. It's just very average, I would say. It's not bad, but it's not bright and it's not crystal clear. It's small, so it's hard to read, but you do have the rev strip, which I'm going to bring up here. So there's the rev strap working, as well as the fan lids in the background there. And it works, but like I said, it's about average. Now, I'm going to pop this off. No, okay, so I'm going to actually, let's turn the lighting back on here. I'm going to pop this off. Now, the problem I have with, this is my biggest complaint, is, like I said, it's about G29 quality. There's no real positive click here to this. In fact, it's really, really quiet. No positive click. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can actually like bend these a bit. I don't know if that's damaging anything when I do that, but if you pull them really hard like I like to, that might be bad on it. But that's one of the biggest issues I have, really, is that they're just very average paddle shifters. That's the biggest weakness. And this plastic, it's just all plastic back here. There's nothing really. It looks like it's strong plastic, but it doesn't look like it's nice. So we're going to move on. I'm going to tuck that away. I'll actually just tuck that away down here for now. So here we go. Now, I did make a comment about these paddle shifters not being the best, but they're not. They're not super clicky, which a lot of people like. I like that, actually. I like it to be very snappy, which these are snappy. There's you get to a point where it wants to move, and it wants to move all the way. So it's snappy. It's just not, it doesn't click really firmly. It does have a little bit of play in there. But you can hear it click. So it does work. It just, it's a huge improvement. In fact, I actually was in a real road car. I'll get this attached here. I was in a real road car, and it actually was about the same, if not worse. It was probably they were a little more clicky than G29 paddles, but they weren't, there was no travel whatsoever. And immediately in the light, I can actually see the texture of this wheel, and but you can really feel the leather and the wrapping and the padding. I can't think of many real life wheels that I've had that are better than this. So yeah, it's very nice. But the first thing you're going to notice, I'm going to dim the lights again here, and that is this awesome, bam, just super bright, super big, super clear, massive improvement. It's more closer to the center, so it doesn't move around as much. It's not on the top of the wheel, it's closer to the center. And you still get the rev lids, so I can put it on brake force here, what I was using earlier, and you still get those LEDs, but it's not on a stripe. I do like the rev stripe. It's pretty cool, but honestly the LEDs work better. And this display, it is extremely bright. I'm actually going to turn the lighting back on. You can still read that display. It's just how bright it is. And that's extremely helpful when you use it in something like Fanatec and use it in iRacing for different cars. Something also is, I've talked about how great this texturing and this Alcantara and padding is, but something you don't notice is how good this texturing on the metal faceplate is. Now the back end, as I said, the last one, it was kind of cheap looking. The plastic looked strong, but it didn't look good. This has some kind of really smooth, like almost like a powder coat feel to it. Of course, there's your quality stamp, but that is actually it looks really expensive for plastic. And the display is made out of the same stuff, so you can tell it's plastic, but it looks legitimate, looks real. They pulled the CAD data out of the real car, so I'm sure it's very accurate as to what the real car would look like. But just to try and get, that texture is on that metal faceplate is really good. So that's a huge plus, is to have good looking faceplate, as would anybody want. But set that back down here, try to get that adjusted back. It's not too terrible. Okay. And it is heavier when I'm turning it. Of course it's heavier when I'm holding it, but when it's on here, this is the same wheelbase that had a very light P1 wheel. Like, in comparison, you can look up the stats, it's a huge difference. But this wheelbase actually handles it just fine, as I'm going to go and demonstrate now. By doing the same test I did with the P1 wheel, we're going to do the 911 GT3 Cup and iRacing at Watkins Glen in the afternoon, because I like no grip. So we will cut and go racing. Okay, forgot some pretty important things, some details. So we'll hop right in and cover those real quick. The first of which I did want to cover was the diameter of these wheels. This one does come in about 32. And I know it's not really, you can't really see that all that well, but that is straight across the wheel. And it is coming to 32 as I lean that out. It's 33 if I go around the wheel, but so 320 compared to, if I put it side by side, you can see there's a lot more over here than here. Something you'll immediately notice also, this one is .30 almost exactly. So it's, got a measurement off here. So if I go straight across, there's 30. So it's actually bigger than G27, G29. Where it lacks though is, I'm going to get the micrometer out here. Where it lacks though is this, right here where your hand goes, right in the meatiness that gives you grip, it seems to be. So if we close that in, actually I'm going to turn it this way. Oh, actually messed up there. There we go, right in the meat of it, it's about 30. And right where the thumb goes, it is about 28. Now the wheel itself, it's wide. It's got a wide wheel. It's actually 36. But the thickness all the way around, other than where your hand goes, is 25. So there's that. Now on the other one, put this aside here. The other one right here in the meat of the wheel, it is .33. So I think I'm cutting the leather a bit by doing this. Yeah, 33.3. And then in the, where the thumb goes, the indentation there, 28. So it's about the same right there, but where it really feels better is there's padding here, and it actually is a little thicker all the way around the wheel. So we have 33 there, which is actually a little thinner than the other one, and then 27 there, so it's a lot thicker that way. And then the thumb pads, I like to call them thumb pads, it's not the padding right there where the thumb kind of rests, it is just really thick there, if I can actually even measure that. It is 28 right there. Now the other one, I can guarantee you that that's not gonna, you can just look at the differences. This doesn't stick out at all. It is 19. So it's easy for your thumb to slip out and go everywhere. Some people drive with their thumbs out, some with them in. I drive with mine in. Gives you more grip. That's just my opinion, but you know, opinions, everybody has one. So that's off. So yeah, that's what I want to do. Obviously, if you measure it this way, it is going to be a little bit less. It comes to about 30 and a half there, 31 maybe. So you lose a centimeter by flattening that out. But it actually, you can feel a lot more than you can see really. But it's, I just wanted to cover the size because that's something that's frequently asked. Also, the thickness of this metal plate here, I can actually measure that because down here there's nothing behind it. But it is about 5 1/3, or a little bit less, between 1/4 and 1/3 there. And that's the same thickness. I could even grab it up here where the buttons are. There is a place where you can test that, but it is the same. Whereas the thickness on the metal faceplate, although this is a metal faceplate, it is rather thin. It, let me see if I can get that real quick here. It is only 2.85. So it's about half the thickness of this faceplate. And like I said, I just really like that texturing that they've done to this faceplate. It is front and back. If you could see the back of the metal, it would be the same. And that padding, I think that's the biggest difference, is the padding, where the padding is and how thick it is. That's the biggest difference for me. But we will move on. Okay, so here we are. Getting everything calibrated. Okay. Again, there's a reason I picked this track and this car. I don't know either of them very well. Well, I know Watkins Glen very well, but I don't know. This car and track combination is pretty new to me. I've only done it these 2 videos, really.
Back it down a little bit, bud.
Kind of an outlaw apple. I can actually see that blinking in my peripheral. The fanalids, the wheel. So that already is an immediately... Maybe a little wide there. But that's a huge driver rate, is that nice positive. And I can look down and see what gear I'm in without having to look on screen. Of course, the wheel is very comfortable. Not still lifting there because I just don't know this car very well, but what I'm getting a feel for is the pushback in the wheel in that high pressure zone, which is and I'm really feeling around to see if the weight of this wheel makes the force feedback better or worse. Which right now I'm feeling that it's actually better than what I tested before. I'm a lot more comfortable with this wheel. The grip is there. I don't... So here's where I'm really going to be testing the compression and everything. Tires are definitely warm by now. So I'm feeling for the bumps on the straightaways, obviously. And right here I'm going to feel for compression. Oh yeah. Can feel almost a pneumatic feeling. Can feel that vibration. Which this wheel actually does have vibration motors. So it's gonna have that haptic feedback on the curbs. And right there I was feeling for very quick responses, and you get them, but it's almost buffeted because of the weight of the wheel, almost like a real one would be. So yeah, you get the fast movements, but it also feels like there's weight there, which... You'll notice I'm not spinning out like I was either. As soon as I said something, huh? So we'll do one more quick test here. Again, feeling for long compressions in this section of the track. Feeling for bumps here, which I do feel them, they're very present. Even with a heavy wheel like this, they're still present. And another long compression, just constant weight. I feel like as soon as I pull that paddle, it's going to shift too. It's a very nice feeling. Alright, so back to feeling for compression at the first turn and that jolt. Yep, I can definitely feel that. Actually doing better after just a couple laps there. I think fresh tires helped. I cooked them a bit, but definitely feel that change of force. And then this long compression with, you can actually feel the bumps in that. So I went a little slow there, but a little loose there, but I felt it immediately as the weight gave out during that long compression there. Went over the curb, but I definitely felt it. Going slow through there for some reason. Alright, so that pretty much concludes the test here. I'll give some thoughts afterwards here. And actually on this last lap, I'm going to show you the intuitiveness here, because the old controller was basically an Xbox controller and all the buttons are in one place, but what I can do here is I can flip through screens. Can use that. I can also so what I'm going to do while I'm actually going to go to my pit stop. I'm going to lower my pressure while in a turn. So there, I've lowered that tire. And immediately onto the pit limiter. And now I can adjust the tire pressures as needed here while working my way to the pits. I can check my relative, check my fuel. I can drop in some fuel and swerving, which is dangerous. Check my tires, go back to the relative. I can even adjust my fuel pacing if I want to go over to the in-car adjustments. I can adjust my brake pressure bias, which I have a knob over here for that, but if I wanted to do that. We'll shut the car off though and take it out of pit limiter. And yeah, that's pretty much the test there. A lot more intuitive controls. I wanted to show that off in the last lap. Yeah, I missed a shift or two trying to, showcase using the encoder and such while in the car. That's a huge help though. Real cars have multiple encoders. This is just an analog stick though. No encoder on it. I don't really use this for anything. I'm not sure what people use it for other than looking around in cars maybe. But I don't really have a need for that as I have track IR. So I guess I'm missing out on that feature that I could use, but maybe I'll find something for that. Like maybe I can use that as to adjust things. Like maybe the weight jacker in the Indy car or something like that. But obviously, this is not the wheel to use in an Indy car, but it's a great multi-use. I'll be using it for stock cars, rally cars, and GT cars, this is the perfect size and everything for that. So that's pretty much it. We'll jump back in and do basically a last impression before I just put this thing to the test for months and months and months and put hours into it and and do a full-time review. Okay, so sort of a final impressions of the Fanatec Clubsport BMW GT2 wheel, or wheel rim, I should say. Now, I did forget to mention a few times that it does have vibration motors in it. I think I mentioned it in the force feedback test because I mentioned you could feel the curbs a little better because it doesn't always vibrate when you're on a curb, but most of the time, if you have some kind of front wheel grip issue, it does vibrate. Obviously, the display is fantastic. You can read it. I mean, I've pretty much got a light shining right on it right now. If we were to dim the lights, you can. This is the lighting I race in. I've actually got extra lighting here for video just so you can see everything. So, yeah, there's, it's exaggerated lighting really. But it's fantastic. I mean, it's bright enough to where you would never need to, question what's going on the screen. You can read that pretty easily. Like I said, I can even go in here and get the fan lids to light up so you can see what that looks like here. And it's definitely bright enough. So, it's one of those things that it's just very impressive seeing something this well made. The buttons, like I said, they're even the encoder over here. And even though I will say the way this disconnect works is really well. It's got it's got little ball bearings in here that obviously clamp onto the wheelbase part here. It's got little holes around it, not holes, but places for those ball bearings to go, and they don't move unless you pull this back. It's just like a real car. I've seen issues where people will get this spring stuck, but I haven't had any issues whatsoever, and I pop it off every time I'm done racing. I pop this thing off and put it on a display stand because it's a nice looking wheel. I mean, if you bought it for decoration, it would probably be worth it, because I know people that spend a lot more than that on decoration. But very good wheel, very tactile buttons. You can actually feel it in your hand when you hit a button. You know you clicked it, and there's no mistaking which button you hit because they're very spaced out, which was my major complaint with the P1 style wheels, is that the buttons were too close. You had too many too close, and it's kind of hard to differentiate what button you're hitting when there's 3 of them within an inch. So here you do have 5 buttons in a row, but one's way in the middle, so you know where it's at. I use that for my relative screen because typically if I'm switching screens, I don't want to accidentally hit one of the screen buttons, which I usually put as the top 3 here. I usually put my push to talk button right here and my pit limiter here. Pit adjustments on the encoder and black box controls on there. I use this for tires, this for fuel, because to me fuel is dangerous. So orange, fire, blue is, I want my tires to be cool. So yeah, just kind of a whoever, it's whatever you want to put here. I don't really know what works best to put on those buttons. Some sort of adjustment would work really well there. To calibrate the wheel, it's pretty easy. You just hit the settings button, get the screen to come up, and you push both of the thumbsticks, which I guess that's not a thumbstick, it's a D-pad and an encoder, but you push both buttons in, and that resets the center. And it's very easy. To calibrate your shifter, you just push the same button, but while that's on screen, you go and push this button, I think. It's pretty easy. The quick setup guide covers it all. And I've actually come to like this flat bottom. I didn't know how I would like that. It's not a huge dip. It's not a huge cutoff, but it's definitely noticeable actually when driving. When I do a 180, a hairpin turn, I like to grab that flat part and that way I know I've got the bottom of the wheel, and bring it to the top, and I know I'm at my maximum efficient lock most of the time. Now sometimes in dirt races I have caught myself bringing that all the way over, but very rarely. So it's definitely worth it. To me, that's usually what I look at in upgrades and all that jazz. Is it worth the price I paid? It's definitely pricey. It's definitely for those looking for an investment. You're not going to go wrong. It's got a very thick, very nice looking front plate with obviously the BMW logo right in the middle. It's easily mistaken as a real race car wheel, easily. The only thing really that it has that the real one doesn't is these thumbsticks. They don't exist on the real one. But, you know, really, that's it. Everything else is spot on, and it's actually even a deeper dish, which some people complain because you can't reach the buttons as good. That's because the buttons are actually inset from the wheel. If I take this off again, which we're going to talk about something on the back side in a minute anyway. But if I take this off, you can see holding the wheel, the buttons are inset a bit, so you actually have to reach into the dish. You can see the angle, maybe. Yeah, that's really a better. You can see the shadow of the lighting there. So it's a little bit deeper dish. The buttons are about to the bottom. The buttons are about the bottom of this. That's how deep they are, and so it's a pretty good reach, but I don't mind that because that's how a real car is. The next thing I want to talk about is the shifters. Obviously, that's been a huge talking point for me, is the shifters. And it's a huge improvement over anything G25, G27, G29. And of course, the P1 wheel that Fanatec makes, it's still a huge improvement, although it could be, you know, better. Could have like magnets in there, like I've seen some shifters, and it would just pop right back. But this wheel is actually several years old. In fact, I'm pretty sure they stopped using the car this was designed for. So, you know, you got to give them some credit there. Do I have this on here? Okay, yeah, it's on. Sometimes it's you look at the attachment point, that's not on good. There we go. Yeah, it wasn't all the way on. So sometimes that takes a little bit of getting used to, but you can't ask for, you know, a better looking wheel and a more realistic wheel for sports car and oval car racing. It's definitely not good for Formula. I'm going to use it for everything, but I wouldn't recommend it for Formula because in Formula, you're usually reach around for buttons. There's constant adjustments in those cars you're messing with. In GT cars, not so much. Like I said, I got knobs over here on this side for brake bias and traction control, volume control, stuff like that, ignition. So I just keep the stuff that I want to hit while I'm racing on here, and usually that's just going to be black boxes and in-car adjustments, stuff like that. Pit limiters, push to talk, stuff like that. Even my radio channels I have on my button box because I just don't want to accidentally hit that. If I accidentally hit a black box, nothing's going to happen. Even if I accidentally make an in-car adjustment, it's, you know, not that big of a deal. But it definitely, as an overview, I can definitely see why this would be a viable upgrade, even for me using a CSL Elite wheelbase, which is weaker than the CSW wheelbase, CSW 2.5, 2.0, whichever you prefer. It is weaker than those, but I have no problems whatsoever. It's just as good force feedback. In fact, I actually like the weight better because sometimes you can feel smaller movements better because you feel the weight actually kick against that movement, and you can say, well, I can feel something happening, and I've actually been quicker with this wheel since then. The force feedback isn't overpowering the feeling of the wheel, which is always good. So that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, you know, leave a comment below if you have any questions. I have got some comments on my other review pages, and I have no problem answering any questions. Or if you even have a concern, if you think that I'm a little critical of something, feel free. I don't care. Just, don't be a heckler, don't be a troll, and everything will be good. So, alright, I'm out of here, but thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.